Welcome back. So there you go. That's what we start off focusing on this morning on Sunrise Today. We're joined now by Chigozie Ubani, who is a security consultant. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me, Chairman.
Well, this comes against the background of the negotiations, the ceasefire agreements. But now the military also says that they've been adopting this air raids and it's yielding results. But the accounts we see there really raises a lot of concern. Everyone in the country should be concerned about all of this, but having been following through what's going on, what's your reading of the proceedings, of what you see?
Thank you. In my opinion, following my observation, of course, I've always held the opinion that there are several dimensions to the insurgency. And when you look at it, you see that government itself is also adopting several means of attempting to put this under control. One thing I know is that without sounding to have without sounding to want to speak with the minds of government, but I know that the federal government have attempted to put all cards on the table. You can remember when they offered amnesty, which I think infuriated the elements in Boko Haram. You can also remember when they offered negotiations, appointed a team to negotiate with Boko Haram, which nobody turned up, and now ceasefire, which was never adhered to. It means that when you look at it carefully, you see that government have made offers. What I should be expecting is pounding Boko Haram, having offered all these and having failed. Two ways. Boko Haram have sponsors. I have said this and I'll keep saying this. Boko Haram have sponsors, highly connected people.
Outside the country?
Or both within and outside the country. Of course, you saw meetings held in Niger and those who attended. So
what's the implication of that meeting that held in Niger? Because, the president of Chad is said to also have been brokering peace. So where do we place that meeting amidst what's going on now?
Of course, like we can all see, government has intelligence. I am not one of those who see government as clueless. The NIA is there. The State Security Service is there. And I have said this before. I said, look, they have done their job. Who has refused to implement it? And that brings us to the issue of politicking. People read political economics. I think now we begin to look into studying political security, where we play politics with security, which involves lives and property of the people.
Could that be happening here?
That is what I am saying here. That is happening. We are now looking at political expediency, probably juxtaposing it with actions that should have been taken to secure lives and property. When we see the kind of people who are being fingered to have links to Boko Haram and see their placement in the society, then we don't need the crystal ball to decipher that these guys have highly connected people. The president himself have said this over and over again, that these elements exist in government.
Do you think the authorities know who the sponsors of this
They
group
do
are?
know. There is no hiding this anymore. They do know. The challenge is that, like I talked about, political expediency. When you look at what has to be done and the effects, if done, especially at this time when horse trading, I need to be here, I have to be here, okay, I exchange my daughter's head for a basket of tomato. At this time of horse trading, a lot of things that should have been done are being neglected. And that's why I talk about political security now.
I was actually going to ask what's been neglected here, because Nigerians are really, really disappointed at what is happening now, because when the news broke about the ceasefire, we thought we were getting closer to resolving all of this, but it would seem that as some analysts had said, even on our news at 10, that it could be to buy time, and now we're getting to see what is happening in Mubi and so many other villages. What is it that we're neglecting? It's a big question now.
Very good. You see, I have said there are different levels in each of these struggles, be it insurgency, be it political struggle, emancipation and, all that. There are sponsors at every time. There are people who sponsor actions. There are those who strategize and command. And then there are the foot soldiers. Governments have entered into an endless battle with the foot soldiers, which is the lowest strata of this struggle. From time to time, they venture into capturing or taking out the strategists and commanders. But the most important of all this are the political actors, those who bring the money, those who give them vital information.
Are we engaging them?
No, we are not. If actually government have attempted, these things are done in negotiations in dark rooms.
So are you suggesting that when you say at this time of negotiations,
yes, horse
that
trading,
it may get worse before it gets better?
You see, we should always believe that it will get better, but how many lives will have to go into this? That is my pain. There are certain things that don't need to be said here. But if I challenge you that Boko Haram themselves have not harassed the federal government, for instance, if the 3-arm zone is attacked, believe me, Nigeria, the federal government will crush Boko Haram within 2 weeks. If the 3-arm zone from the National Assembly to the seat of government itself is hit by Boko Haram, they'll be crushed within 2 weeks. Because that was what happened with Ebola. The moment the elite was challenged, this diplomat coming in from the nation's #1 point of entry, it dawned on them that even the president himself is a potential victim of Ebola. Nigeria rose to the occasion and we have taken Ebola out. But if Ebola had come in through any of the buses carrying 68 passengers through the land border, some would drop in Badagry, some would drop in Lagos, some would drop in Onitsha and Aba and so forth, we would have been in serious trouble, because these same people in government would have seen it as the poor man disease. I just use that to tell you how these things happen. So, several lives are being lost, but these are lowly placed people. If this thing affects them directly, believe me, they will take a different turn.
But this
So
also
that
has
is the reason why we are saying, before it gets better, we need to reduce the number of lives that have to go into this before it gets better.
But the potential, this has the potential of either throwing spanner in the works of the general elections. Because if it continues this way, and they're supposed to have, because, I mean, you can't say or deprive those areas of not having elections. It will have its implications, wouldn't they? Or don't they see this picture?
Somehow they will hold elections. Somehow elections will be held. What is being held hostage here is a territory in the northeast. So somehow elections will be held. The 2015 elections will not stop because a territory in a zone, is under siege. That's not even my problem. My problem is not the elections. There has to be a country before the elections hold. There has to be human beings who vote
So if you
before
don't secure
the
it,
elections
yes.
come. What we are worried about is the number of lives, properties that are going into this while we are politicking.
You know, the military...
Government has to, sorry brother, government has to be decisive on the sponsors of Boko Haram.
In fact, that's where I wanted
That
to come
is
to.
very
The
key.
decisiveness of government was actually shown in how the military took charge of everything. And some people like yourself, some analysts, were of the opinion that we shouldn't have backed down. We should have just maintained and, you know, stay on that particular tempo. But again, don't you think that now, as we earlier asked about the Chadian president, those in charge should be speaking up now to let us in on who exactly they had that meeting with. The federal government as well should also speak up on this particular ceasefire, because I recall some were not too comfortable saying that since the Boko Haram group refused to release a statement or a video also corroborating what our government and people had said then about a supposedly ceasefire, don't you think that we need an explanation on this particular one so that we know if we have an arm of Boko Haram that is speaking with the Nigerian government and some aggrieved splinter group that is unleashing mayhem still on us?
The mistake we make is to assume that Boko Haram is just one organization being led by the fellow we see all the time, who's also been killed several times by the Nigerian authorities. I have said this, that people join insurgency, join struggles for different reasons. Okay? Now, if somebody's piece of land was taken and given to a church, that is enough for criminal elements within that family to join insurgency and use the opportunity to revenge, okay, to vent their anger on the family that took their church. If somebody's girlfriend was ever taken by those who have the means, it is enough for a young man to join the fray and take revenge on this successful person for having taken his girlfriend. So I'm using this also to portray the point that people have several different reasons for being in the fray. So when we make the mistake of saying we are negotiating with Boko Haram, I challenge whoever is doing that negotiation to tell us the names of those he's negotiating with. The Boko Haram we know, who are taking our girls and marrying them off and slaughtering people, are being powered by an extremist Islamic ideology. So, if you take a deep look into Islamic extremism, you will see that there has never been and there can never be a round table to discuss. Some of the issues that drive them cannot be put on table in the 21st century. And if we have time, we can begin to look at some of these things as seen by their actions. None of these things can be discussed. You can see what is happening in the ISIS region, where slavery is being legalized. Can anybody discuss that on the table? Nobody can. Can anybody come to the table and say, give us the autonomy to run an enclave where 13-year-old girls will be betrothed? Nobody can discuss that on the table. So, some of these things, like I'm saying, can never be discussed at any point on any round table. So,
Okay.
This is a negative ideology that needs to be crushed. If there is any engagement, like some people have preferred, it's an ideology, you can only conquer it with a superior ideology. We will be dealing with the younger ones in schools, in other forms of orientation and reorientation. But these hardcore killers can never be convinced to drop their arms and be human beings again.
We'll take a quick break, but we'll be back and see if we could get more into the thinking of what's going on by the government in Adamawa State. That's in just a moment. Join us again.